Hello and welcome to the fourth official Evans Game Plan podcast. I'm joined here today by the sixth AAA Coach of the Year, Mr. Nick Fike. Yeah, give it up.
Appreciate you having me, Evan.
For sure. How you doing today, Coach Fike?
I'm good. Licking my wounds a little bit, but I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just, waking up. You know how it feels, man.
Must be. No, I don't. Actually, I had to be here on time this morning where you guys got to sleep in, so I don't know how it feels.
It was very nice sleeping in.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah. So after last night's loss against East Ridge, it's a tough loss, 2-point loss. How are you going to counter that?
We're going to get back to it tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Give them a day off today and let them lick their wounds as well and let their bodies recoup. And we'll come in tomorrow, watch some film on Loudon, and prepare on Thursday and Friday for Saturday's game here at 7.
For sure. So what do you think was kind of the factors to that game that kind of led to the loss?
I think there's a few things, but ultimately I think we got to put the ball in the basket.
Okay.
I think we struggled a little bit on the offensive side. I think defensively we did our job. I just think there was a lid on the basket, so to say. I think we got to do a little bit better job executing in the half court.
Yeah. Do you think East Ridge has a big shot at winning state?
I don't know if that's the proper question to be asking right now. I don't want to pass judgment on East Ridge. I think they've got some pieces. They had a guy return who helps them out tremendously. Trey does a good job with them.
Yeah.
Maybe if things pan out the right way, maybe we see them in the region championship. Who knows?
That'd be great too. That'd be an awesome matchup coming back to do it.
It would be an awesome matchup, but we've got to handle Loudon on Saturday first.
For sure. So, speaking of East Ridge and maybe playing them again, if you could rematch any team this year, which team would it be?
I would go back to last night.
Last night?
I guess I could say Tyner as well, but with the stakes where they were last night and it being a championship game, obviously you want to win those. So, we'd probably dial it back, reset the button for last night.
Makes sense. I understand. So what do you think would be your biggest loss of the year and then your biggest win of the year?
Biggest loss, I'll start with the biggest win. I thought beating Macaulay the first round of Best of Preps was a really good program win for us. And kind of set the tone on what we could be and kind of where we are now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Loss, we don't like losing here at home. So there again, I may hit the East Ridge button again here at home one of the last games of the season.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So do you think beating Macaulay sort of set the pace for the season?
Yes and no. I've started to come to belief that we talk about separate teams, but I also think the program is just in a good state and all in general.
Yeah.
I think the guys that left last year did a great job of raising the bar and the standard of what we want to be and who we want to be. And I think that our guys kind of piggybacked off that last year and started out the season hot. I think we had some losses over Christmas break at a Heritage Christmas tournament that I think were warranted and that we needed to kind of show us, hey, we're not who we want to be.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some time. But ultimately, I think Macaulay kind of helped give us that little confidence boost that, hey, okay, you know what? We can be this team if we play this certain style that we're wanting to play. So, yeah, I think that was a good confidence boost.
Yeah, I think
sure.
that winning can definitely be a confidence boost, but I do think losing can be as well. I'd say sort of like a, get back out there kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like I tell these guys. It's not the loss that really matters. It's how you bounce back
after
that loss that really kind of defines who you are. So,
you think that East Ridge, that kind of is going to give you guys a little bit of a fire to, bounce back?
I hope so. Yeah. Saturday rolls around, you don't get a bounce back game. You don't handle your business Saturday, then you're done.
It's just how it is.
So, you could say bounce back, but I think you got to have a sense of urgency and a mindset that, hey, we got to play the way we're supposed to play, or else we don't get an opportunity to put a uniform on again. So,
and I think that last night, now it's just like that, and now it's like go.
Yeah,
you got to win.
Have the urgency. You got to have the urgency.
So I know that brings a lot of pressure on the players, and I've heard a lot of players, talk about, after a loss and having to come back, and especially after last night. But I don't think a lot of people see how does that affect the coach,
I will tell you this. I think anybody is their own worst critic, right?
Yeah.
But in coaching, it doesn't matter how the loss happened or the win happened. I go home and I'm up. I watch the film right after we play. So, you leave the mountain at 11:30, you get home at 12, and you spend 12 to 1:15 watching game film last night. So it's a late night. And I assess a lot of different things and could I have done this different or this different? What can we do moving forward? So, I know it's hard on players, but I think that coaches take it equally, if not more, hard at times. Because at the end of the day, we're passionate about what we do. That's why we're in the profession. So
for sure,
got to figure it out.
And I think that can affect how your morale against how having to coach your players through a game. If your morale's down, so do you always kind of have to keep the game face on, so to say?
There's no keeping a game face on. I mean, it's there. It's permanent.
For sure, yeah.
I'm a pretty intense dude.
Yeah.
I think at times I probably could do a better job of taking a dose of my own medicine. And what I mean by that is if I'm telling them they got to forget about a play or something that happened before, I've also got to do the same thing and not harp on it, because what good does it do to tell them that if I'm in the background?
Of course.
Still harping.
Yeah,
on it.
and
that's probably
you're yelling at them while they're yelling at the court. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of a twofold thing, and I have to. I know I have to be better in that regard. But like I said, it comes from the passion side of things. So it's hard at times.
You can see players that are viewed as kind of hotheads or mean or just hard to deal with, but a lot of those players, I'd say, have sort of just passion for the game. Love for the game, and that's why that gets put out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We've got some very passionate guys. I think we've actually got a little bit more IQ sometimes than I do give them credit for.
Yeah.
But no, you're exactly right.
So how so Red Bank has only made state 5 times in history.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that and going last year and being as close as you are now, how does it feel coaching a team that's part of history now?
Evan, I will say I think just building the program for the past this is the 11th year, having my assistants on board for I think 8 of those years has been very rewarding.
Yeah.
As a young coach, you come in and you want to win right away and establish a culture and a program, but in all actuality, it's made me realize that if you're wanting to build something that's going to last, it takes time.
For sure.
And you're seeing that now. I don't think these are flukes. I think these are results of something that we've been putting work in for years.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing the fruits of the labor. I think every coach in the state of Tennessee and the United, they want to get to state. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
That's
the goal almost.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. And you got to be realistic at times. I thought last year we've had teams obviously in the past that I think could have gotten there. Last year being one of those teams, and like I've told this group has the pieces and the keys as well. But when it gets to those pressure situations and those big time games, how are we going to respond? And that ultimately is the telling sign. So, like I said, pressure is a privilege.
Yeah.
It's unique being the hunted instead of the hunter.
Right.
And it's a little bit tougher.
I'm sure. I mean, because being out there on the court, you're getting told what to do and what your expectations for the game. But I'm sure it's hard, having to coordinate those things,
Absolutely.
and be the person to fire those players up and to get them out there and to do the things that you want them to do while also maintaining their own game,
Absolutely. And I feel like we do a pretty good job of adjusting year to year what we can do offensively with the guys that we have. You get to the college level and they're recruiting. If you're Syracuse and you run a 2-3 zone, then you're going out and recruiting those guys that match it long, lanky, that can run that style of defense. Or if you're a guy that wants to run a flex or whatnot, then you're recruiting it. In high school, you
have to build that.
You get what you get, right? And so I think it's unfair to try to force a system on a group of kids when, like this year, what we're doing is a little bit different than what we did last year, but our personnel is different. I think you've got to adjust to your personnel from year to year in order to be successful.
Do you think that there's like a balance when it comes to coach to players for when it like what they do on the court on their own versus what you tell them to do?
Yeah, I think that's a tough adjustment for players because at the end of the day, I mean, we tell them be ball players, right? So I want you to play offense, not run offense.
Yeah.
So if we have an offense out there catered to the personnel that we have, you've got to be able to run offense, not play it. So you got to be able to make reads. If I come off this ball screen, are they switching? Are they hedging? Are they trapping? If they are, what's going to be open? And I think that's kind of a tough thing as a coach and a tough thing as a player is being able to make reads and be able to make those adjustments.
And to sort of share personalities, so to say, on the court, because there's people that want to get out there and they want to win. There's people get out there that want to go out there and they want to score, And I'd say it's kind of hard to everybody be on the court and everything sort of run as one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that's what's been unique about this group is we've got some heavy guard play, and at any time, any of those dudes could be quote unquote selfish.
Yeah.
But you see, you got four guys, all those guards averaging double digits. To me, that says a lot. They're willing to sacrifice for each other. And I think, and it kind of showed last night in East Ridge, I think some of those big games, that gets a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Right? When can I take over? When should I take over? When do I don't want to say follow a script, but when do I kind of stick to that necessary game plan and make the right reads? Or if I got this guy and I can beat this guy off the bounce, calling something for myself to get downhill. I think that's a tough balance between coaches and players.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard to teach that too.
It is. It's instinct. It's we call being a hooper. Or essentially being a hooper and just out there to play basketball.
Yeah. And I mean, coming off of like last year and everything that's happened, Red Bank has never made state back to back.
Yes, they have. 2008, 2009.
Really?
Yeah. So what happened, the unique thing about 2008, in fact, Coach Clay was on that team. 2008, they won district. I believe they won region and they went on to state.
Oh, okay.
And then 2009, those seniors that were here, Dominique McDuffie, which is Taylor's father, Tim, those guys graduated.
That's crazy.
And
his
Kelvin
father?
and them became sophomores.
Yeah.
And they didn't win district. They got beat by Walker Valley, who went 34-2 that year in the region. But they went all the way up to Oakland and won their sub-state game and got to state.
So kind of what could happen this year?
I mean, that's kind of the story that I want to share with those guys is, hey, no, we didn't win the district championship. Obviously, we want to win it, and we still have a shot at region. We got to handle our business, but anything's possible.
Yeah,
that's the beauty and the curse of the sport.
For sure.
Right? Any given night.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like it's up to you. You control your own destiny.
Well, it's not up to me.
Yeah, well, I say up to them as I mean,
But yeah, no, I mean,
no pressure. No,
I can lay out the game plan, and I can.
Evan's game plan. Fike's game. This is Fike's game plan.
We just we go and play. So
yeah. And y'all do that well. Y'all go out and play well.
It has been rewarding the past few years for sure.
Yeah, you say because I hear a lot of I think a lot of credit goes to the players. Hard work pays off, but I mean coaching still. Do you think hard work pays off in sort of the same way? How do you? This kind of two questions. How do you build that as a coach? Kind of build a culture. I'd say working up. You know what I'm saying?
I mean time.
Yeah.
Effort, relationships, getting the right people around you. I was fortunate. My first year here, I had Marcus Watts who played at UTC, was a great assistant. He moved and went to High Point, which was in South Carolina. He won the state championship in single A his second year coaching. My second assistant coach here, Jordan Griffin, went to Dutchtown, had 2 Division I guys on his team, wins the state championship. His second. So both my assistants that were here won the state championship. And then, I get these guys, Coach Carl, Coach Long, and Coach Twan, and I can't talk highly enough about them. I think if you want consistency in a program, you got to have consistency within your coaches. And I think we've got that consistency. And you got to have administration. And we're fortunate to have an administrator like Mr. Tillett who really cares about athletics here. And not just him, but the admin team in general. And that stuff matters in the grand scheme of things. And I think as coaches, you've got to never get tired of learning. I'm constantly looking at stuff, constantly reading stuff, and you hear it all the time. But we can talk about X's and O's, but building relationships and getting to know players on a more personal level, that matters.
Yeah.
I think it's been pretty unique. A couple of my former players have just had babies. One of them's getting married, and I'm like, man, have I really been in it that long?
It's crazy to look at it and see that, isn't it?
But it is. But then getting those texts from them, like, hey, here's my baby daughter was just born, or hey, coach, the invitation's coming in the mail. I'm getting married.
I'm sure
like,
that's great to see from you. You kept that relationship with that player. They felt enough to reach back out to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got a lot of that's reach. That's a lot.
That's, to me, as cliche as it sounds, I mean, it's about relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. I mean, what are you in teaching for? Yeah, you want to teach. You're here because but at the end of the day,
it's a family.
If you're not building relationships, what good is it, right?
Right, and I agree.
I've heard the old saying that I try to tell new coaches is, rules without relationships lead to rebellion.
Yeah.
You're not going to get what you want out of anybody if you don't have relationships with them.
That's I've never heard that quote before, but that's great because I don't think a lot of times people just go straight to forcing something or teaching something instead of creating something, And I think that as a coach, there's a lot more creating than there is like teaching or scolding, And it's great to hear that from a coach's like perspective, because I've talked to players before, I've had DJ on here. It's cool hearing your side of it and DJ's side, because you can see his influence from you onto him, and I think that's really cool.
Well, you got it. It's hard to be hard on a kid if you haven't got to know or build a relationship.
Yeah.
You got to know the buttons to push.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
that's crazy.
It's okay to have fun and joke around.
Yeah,
right?
You got to know what to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's like getting on the announcements the other day and letting out a big roar at the end of the announcements about the game, and then immediately receiving texts from all the guys like, "Coach, don't do that again. Coach, you sound like my dad. Coach, that's embarrassing." Okay, cool. It's like a dad joke, but we all get each other.
Yeah.
So it's a unique relationship.
And I mean, is it hard to kind of keep a balance of nonsense and no nonsense in the locker room?
I think it is to a point, but there again, I think there's expectations and standards.
Yeah.
And when you've built a culture, those expectations and standards, they don't change. Your approach might, and how you get them to honor those expectations and standards. But those things don't change.
And
so,
when a team is connected enough, I think that kind of just becomes in one. The no nonsense and the nonsense, it kind of exists because they're still doing their thing out there, and they kind of have both sides,
Absolutely. I mean, are you still going to have? We have it. I mean, Keyshawn Mitchell and some of those guys get good. Malik Riser last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude was his own dude. But the cool thing about him is they learn when to channel it, when to do it, when not to do it. And I think that that's rewarding to see as well.
Right.
Like,
and
have fun, but know when to have fun.
Yeah.
Right? There's a time and place for it.
Yeah. And I think basketball, just with that and other things, teaches morals. You know what I'm saying? It's more than just a game you go out there and play in high school, you shoot a ball and it goes in the basket, I think it teaches a lot of things like that, and being on a team teaches everything like that. So how does it feel kind of giving that wisdom, I'd say?
I think, I heard Mick Cronin the other day, and people may not know who he is, but that's UCLA's head coach. And he's caught a lot of heat here lately about the way he's been talking about his team and underachieving, and he's caught a lot of slack by putting it out there publicly.
Like LeVar Ball? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How hard it used to be on Melo and stuff?
Yeah, he's caught a lot of slack, but here recently they've kind of gone through this winning streak. And he said, like, I don't care what everybody else thinks. Like, I need Johnny to realize what I was trying to teach him at 28 years old.
Yep.
He's not going to realize it at 18.
Right.
All right, but at 28, if he comes back and says, all right, now you know what, I know what Coach Cronin was talking about now.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, I think that's part of our job as coaches and teachers, right? Like,
it's hard teaching off of potential.
We say potential has shelf life.
Yeah.
It expires.
It does.
Right? I
So
mean,
when
if
you see
if
that,
you don't hit it and the season ends and those guys graduate, then
it's gone. Yeah. So when you see that, that's why you see people like LeVar Ball, how hard he was on like LaMelo and all of his kids when they were growing up, because he's seen that in them.
Right.
That's just an example, but he's seen that in there. There'd be clips of him coming out yelling at his son saying, oh, you're never going to get the ball, you're this, you're that. But I mean, when you see that, you kind of have to run with it.
Right. I mean, you're talking about accountability and punctuality. I mean, those. I know, like I said, it sounds cliche, but I mean, if you're punishing a kid for not being on time to class, you're teaching him he's got to be on time.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if the locker room doesn't look like, if the locker doesn't look like the picture in your locker, well, we're running for it. Why? Because I want everything organized. You're teaching those type of things, and you're doing it in such a small details, such as being on time or your locker, that psychologically, hopefully, you build that for them going into
and
the
that's
future.
off and on the court.
Absolutely.
Because you're teaching discipline on the court, how to keep your cool, when to do this, when to do that, and you're teaching it off the court.
I look at a kid like Kendrick Lloyd. I'm just going to be real with you, coming in his freshman year and sophomore year, and then having some things with him his junior year, and then I look at him as he leaves his senior year, and the kid is night and day different. And I can't help but think that's because he was in our basketball program.
Right.
And had the coaches.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably a lot on the coaches and the staff and even the students to kind of build that and grow as a team, and not just as individuals, but
absolutely
all as one, because, you know, the staff in general has to grow to teach the kids, and then the kids have to grow as in accepting that and not taking it as, you know, criticism, taking it as constructive criticism and taking it and running with it, you know? And I think
that's the hardest part right now is kids being susceptible to that. Right. Tough coaching. I mean, like I said, the generation, and it's not their fault. I can't tell you where I would be if I had cell phones and access to the things they have nowadays.
It's a lot different.
It's way different. But how tough can you be? How thick skinned can you be? And I think that's where that's a daily, I won't say struggle, but that's a daily emphasis every day. How can we get these guys tougher?
Because, I mean, there's going to be people out there that say crazier things than you'll say.
Right.
You know, not coaches, players, anybody.
Well, wait till you have kids and you got to pay bills and you got a car payment. Like, that's adversity. That's stuff
for sure.
It gets harder.
It's all nothing you can formally teach, but teach with experience, you know? It all happens, and I
absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to get into a game that I like to call What is Your Game Plan?
Oh, no,
beautiful,
man.
Right? Okay, all right. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And, you know, this is Evan's game plan. It's my show, but now we're going to talk about Fike's game plan, all right?
Oh, boy.
So, last shot, 5 seconds left. Who are you taking? A, DJ. B, Jay Rice. C, Drayden. D, Mike. Or E, the great Evan Lawrence. I know it's tough.
Hey, my thing is, what type of shot do we need? Because that's important.
Okay, let's say
if it's a 3 ball, I'm drawing something up for DJ to get a look.
Well, let's say it's almost like a podcast sort of format, you know, and they have to be a podcaster and then they have to shoot the 3. Like, they had to be a former podcaster, like, in this specific situation, they had to shoot the 3. So, I mean, go with whoever you think would be the best.
And they have to be on this list, because I know some podcasters right now.
No. They have to be on the list, and they also have to have done a podcast for, like, I'd say maybe like their high school, but that's just me throwing things out there.
I'm probably going to go Evan Lawrence.
Oh, wow. Everybody hears it. I'm the best 3-point shooter out there.
Well, I didn't say that. But
well, DJ said that he'd take me over Coach Wilson in my podcast.
DJ's not too bright when he says stuff like that.
Hey, I mean, I think I could take Coach Wilson, but that's a whole nother thing.
I've seen Coach Wilson shoot.
You haven't seen me shoot.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, on to the next question. One team to coach. A, the LA Lakers. B, the Monstars, you know, from Space Jam. C, the Globetrotters, specifically when they had Will. D, the Chattanooga Mocs. Or E, my YMCA league.
You know what? I'm going with my YMCA league.
Wow.
You know why? Because I got my son out there.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
At that point, co-ed, so I might have my daughter out there as well. So
that'd be awesome,
man. We go to the Y. I gotta take my kids. I want to coach that team.
Hey, you know what to say to them. You know how to give them tough love. You know
hey. They've yet to beat me at anything. Yes, they
wow.
They get the tough love at home. I can assure you that.
Yeah. Hey, on and off the court, like I said. Okay. Next, which players would you want to coach in spite of their issues? A, Draymond Green. B, Ron Artest. C, Dennis Rodman. D, Evan Lawrence. E, John Morant.
You know, that's tough. I'd say Ron Artest or Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
Rodman was different.
I mean, was Rodman even bad? He was kind of just fun.
No, he was a monster. I mean, there was a couple games where he just pulled 20-something rebounds, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, which is beautiful.
But Run Our Test adds a little bit more spice. He could score the ball a little bit more. So I'm probably.
And if someone was mean to you, he's going to go out there and fight them.
That's true.
Hey, no one's ever going to mess with you.
Dennis Rodman is not afraid to kick you either.
Yeah, and he's married to himself.
Yeah.
Which, that adds.
I'm going to go Run Our Test just for the simple fact I get a little bit more scoring out of it.
Yeah, and protection, not to mention.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
All right, so.
Rodman had great hair, though.
Oh, Rodman had the best hair. You could really pull it off if you tried.
The hair?
Yeah.
Just dyeing the beard.
Like, you could, dye your beard different colors, like Dennis Rodman.
What if I came in Saturday with a royal blue beard?
What if you made it to state and you did that? Would you do that if you made it to state?
I always told the boys if we won state, I'd pierce my ears.
So if you win state, would you pierce your ears?
I'd pierce my ears and dye my beard.
Let's shake on it. You'll dye your beard. You heard it here first. He will dye his beard like Dennis Rodman, right?
Absolutely.
All right,
I wouldn't even think twice about it.
He won't even think twice.
Even put on a wedding gown like he did.
Oh,
and
marry yourself. Hey, but what about your wife?
We're getting a divorce.
Hey, all right. You heard it here first. They're getting a divorce. No. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our last segment, which I like to call music match. Oh, all right. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna show you a couple of images, and you're gonna have to think about a song that goes with them. All right. So have some music ready. Here's this first one. Kind of just you on the sideline. Looks like you're directing stuff,
That's right here. That's Guns N' Roses, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door.
Oh, well, that's actually Bob Dylan.
Guns N' Roses did a way better version.
My. Okay, all right.
Have you heard Slash's guitar?
Yes, and listen, I've heard.
Not Bob Dylan.
Yeah, but you've got.
Go ahead.
Bob Dylan plays so much better. Bob Dylan is one of the best guitar players of all time. But let's move on. This is my favorite picture. How? I've had this picture in my phone for 2 years.
How do you have
I
this
don't
picture?
know. I have no idea. When was it taken?
I have no clue. I don't know.
You're rich, man.
No. The song I'm thinking of, I can't say. So.
All right. Next. This is pretty recent. Six.
Yeah, I would say.
That's you. How does it feel?
I would say. I mean, it's to me. I know this sound. It's never. This stuff's never about me.
Yeah.
Never. I would say. Guns N' Roses, Yesterday.
Okay, Guns N' Roses. No Bob Dylan. That's all right. So last picture. I love this picture. You holding up the net. You got all the players around you. I mean, it's surreal.
Championship rings. Isn't that Drake?
Yeah. Is that Drake or is that Meek Mill?
I don't know.
Hey,
I know what I'm talking about.
Drake or Meek Mill. All right, that's what he goes with. All right, Fike. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I just have what is your message to the youth? What would you tell the kids out there, man?
The message to the youth, just youth in general?
I'd say this youth, our audience.
Just you want a one word? You want a sentence? What do you want, man? You tell me.
You give your message. Your message. What would you say to the youth if you were like, hey, I'm Coach Fike and I'm going to say something to the youth?
When the going gets tough, get tougher.
Get tougher. If the going gets tough, get tougher. That's beautiful. Never even heard that before. You've been pulling some quotes I've never heard of, man.
I'm a quote dude, man.
I respect that. Thank you, Coach Fike.
Thank you, sir.
So this was my game plan.
I gave you a little bit of my game plan.
Yeah. Hey, let me get into that.
It might have been our game plan.
Hey, this is our game plan.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So this is our game plan. Coach Fike and Evans, but never lose your game plan. And we're done.